right now. If there's one group of Americans who Republicans claim to care for but don't, it's the American farmer. Promises were made, promises weren't kept, and people are pissed.
But some folks who aren't feeling Trump's optimism right now are American farmers, and they are stuck in the middle of all of this.
Frank, who did you vote for president?
Mr. Trump.
Right?
Trump.
Mr. Trump.
If the election were today, Frank, would you vote for Donald Trump?
No way. Couldn't happen.
No.
You voted for President Trump. So now, in this moment, you say you're in a free fall. What is your message to him?
So I'm off the Trump train. Where I'm going for now is I got to protect my business.
Island, a wheat farmer who says he's lost $400,000 since Trump took office.
I think there was a lot of people who voted for him that want to stay loyal to him, but it's going to get to the point where financially, if it's between supporting the president or losing your family farm.
You voted for the president?
Yes, I did.
And do you support these policies which might be hurting farmers like you?
Right now, we're the ones that are taking the hit.
I think he's sort of backstabbing the main people who got him into office in the Midwest, and he just left us down.
When Trump promised to help farmers and then Musk started cutting everything he could lay his hands on, it revealed everything you need to know about Trump.
I don't care about you. I just want your vote. I don't care.
American farmers are in big trouble. In the last century, the number of farms have dropped 80%, from close to 7 million to under 2. But that's not good enough for Doge. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has frozen some funding for farmers as it goes through a sweeping review, despite these assurances from Trump that programs helping farmers would not be affected in the government overhaul. But they are. He lied. Add bird flu's effect on beef and poultry, and you have a lot of people in a lot of trouble.
So if this story was taking place somewhere in Central Asia or in Africa, the United States media, the United States State Department, international institutions would likely refer to this as a coup. Why does this billionaire need to know this information?
The impact of these cuts have been immediate and wide-ranging, from cash assistance for ranchers to fix cattle watering systems to help corn growers wanting to plant cover crops that curb wind erosion. And some of the money that's been frozen is tied to environmental conservation programs that were funded by Biden's signature climate law, the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, which included about $20 billion for farm programs over 10 years. Right now, it's gone. The White House said its January 27th proposal to freeze federal loans and grants would not affect programs for farmers, but they lied.
We are possibly going to lose our farm if NRCS doesn't hold up their contract with us on the EQIP program. So the reason that they're not able to hold up the contract is our EQIP program, which is cost sharing on fences, waters, a well, and some seedings, was funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. Because of the executive orders, there's a pause or a freeze on the funding through the Inflation Reduction Act, and they're not able to pay out on the stuff that we completed or anything going forward. But the issue I have is I've already done a bunch of the work, already paid for the material, already paid for the labor, so I'm out all that cost, and I use my farm operating expenses in order to do those projects, because per contract, I knew that I was going to get cost sharing refunds on the stuff once completed, but now that it's completed, they're saying that they're unable to provide the funds because of the freeze on the Inflation Reduction Act funds. So I reached out to a couple different senators and Congress people. So I reached out to Ann Wagner's office. I have not heard back from them. I reached out to Josh Hawley's office. I have heard back from him, not from him personally, but from his office. And they are looking into it because they said that this should not be happening.
But does any of this surprise you, that the guy who bankrupted a casino would FUBAR relief to farmers and cut programs that America's farmers desperately need? And farmers live on the edge of bankruptcy every year, and climate change hasn't helped.
We're already feeling the effects of climate change. Intense heat waves, longer fire seasons, droughts and floods. The impacts of a warmer planet are all around us. And as global temperatures continue to rise, we'll experience even more changes to our planet. New NASA research suggests that with high greenhouse gas emissions, we'll see declines in global crop yields for maize, corn, as early as 2030. Shifting rainfall patterns, higher temperatures, and increased atmospheric carbon levels are likely to affect where and how much of staple crops like corn, soybeans, wheat, and rice can be grown. By 2069 through 2099, global corn crop yields could decrease 24%.
And while scientists and people who can tie their own shoes understand, Trump's cavalcade of stupid marches on.
This earth warming and carbon is actually healthy for us. We've already warmed 1 degree Celsius, and do you know what's happened since then? Here, let me tell you. We have had more food grown since then, which feeds people. We are able to, producing fossil fuels keeps people's houses warm in the winter.
Look, all I know about farmers is this. It's hard work. Maybe that's why these billionaires have no idea. But the fact that we're screwing them over tells you what a fustercluck this administration is. While they rail against diversity, equity, and inclusion and tear apart USAID, an American 60-year-old Judeo-Christian reach out to the world, MAGA is attacking the men and women who work 18-hour days, 7 days a week. These are the same people Ramaswamy mocked.
In this post, Ramaswamy explained why he feels tech companies choose to hire foreign workers over Americans. He boiled it all down to, quote, culture. He wrote in part this: our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long.
But the real truth here is American farmers are in big trouble. They're vulnerable, and ignoring their needs is not only dangerous and stupid, but it's anything other than Christian.
For more than 70 years, the U.S. government has purchased surplus grains from American farmers and sent them overseas to feed hungry communities from Africa and Asia to South America and Ukraine. The program is called Food for Peace, and in 2022, it provided 4 billion pounds of food to 58 million people. But tonight, all that is in jeopardy after the Trump administration's decision to freeze funding for USAID. Hundreds of millions of dollars and millions of tons of wheat, lentils, and rice are stuck in ports and warehouses across America and around the globe. We're joined now by Kansas farmers Vance and Louise Emke. Their farm produces grain that ultimately makes it overseas. Thank you both so much for your time. Vance, let's start with you. Your wheat farm has been in the family since the 1880s. How does it make you feel to know your grain has gone to help people who so desperately needed it overseas?
Well, we do have a humanitarian and moral obligation to help get food to these food deficient areas. It's also really good for developing goodwill with the United States.
But I don't blame Trump entirely. His brain is sociopathically wired to always make it about him. During the LA fires, he thought that anything north of LA would flow down with gravity. He's really that dim. And so even when he's not deliberately hurting farmers, he's hurting farmers with stupid.
I just want to explain. When you solve for the wrong problem, not only do you not get the solution, you can cause harm. So Donald Trump has it in his mind that somehow there's a spigot in Northern California, he's going to open a valve and dump water to Southern California. Here are the facts. Southern California's reservoirs are at near record levels when this fire happened. Didn't matter because Donald Trump then ordered the Army Corps of Engineers to release over 2 billion gallons of water that almost flooded farmland, if not for the local water districts that pushed back. But guess what? This water was saved for the farmers for the summer season when they needed the water. And so the president wasted all this water that isn't even reaching Southern California. It's going to evaporate for a PR stunt. So this was a harmful, ludicrous action to solve for the wrong problem.
Tariffs. To me, I think it's the most beautiful word in the dictionary. More beautiful than love.
Last week, the American Farm Bureau said, and I quote, "We support the goals of security and ensuring fair trade with our North American neighbors and China. But unfortunately, we know from experience that farmers and rural communities will bear the brunt of retaliation. And of course, they will."
My favorite word.
Tariff! And where I live in California, it's America's undocumented who make it possible. And I find with great irony that Republicans believe they can separate the two and have the kind of America we sing about at baseball games. While Trump's idiot stable of fusterclucks dismantle the guardrails, America's in possibly the greatest danger since the Cold War. But at the end of the day, the glue that holds the nation together isn't Amazon or Tesla or iPhones made in sweatshops in China. It's the food that comes from our nation's farmers, who are finally beginning to understand that liberals, well, they ain't the enemy.
Damn right.
I'm as mad as hell.
Whether the women like it or not.
Suck my fat one.
And this guy's personal life is a total disaster.
Trust me.
Shut the f*** up, Darren.
Who's with me?